Career pivots. How do we deal with them on our resume? So recently I got a question from a website designer and developer who has been in this role for the last 10 years. Let's call him Lee. However, over time, Lee has taken on additional roles. He began tutoring in website design. He took on a job at a local TAFE, offering short classes, and he's even begun developing several webinars. Now, in addition, Lee got himself qualified to teach through a Cert 4 in training and assessment. And he did this about a year ago to more properly support his foray into teaching. Now, Lee has decided that he would like to stop offering design and development services, and instead he wants to move more fully into teaching website design instead. Now, he's built up some experience through these ad hoc and project-based opportunities that I mentioned earlier, and this has been happening over the last 3 years. So Lee's question is, do I delete my website designer and developer role in my resume and LinkedIn profile, or do I wait until I step into a new permanent teaching role? So I have a couple of ideas I'd like to share in response to this question. A career pivot is typically planned and a purposeful change in career direction. Sometimes it's a move to a related field, but often it is something completely different. Regardless, a pivot is intentional and meaningful, and you arrive at it with a lot of careful planning. Now, we can take on several competencies and we can build up a range of skills and experiences in the roles that we hold and the various projects we undertake and various things that we choose to embark on. And let's not forget the experiences that are derived from volunteering work that we do. Now, the key thing is to periodically evaluate all of these experiences and skills that we're developing, and then seeing how best we can reflect this in an updated resume, because we should actually be updating our resume from time to time. I know for many of us, resume updates tend to occur at the point we're looking for a new role, but it is a good practice to engage in periodic review. New experiences, new skills, they offer us new insights into how we want to position ourselves to others, especially as we review these experiences in the light of the skills that we already have. So questions we might ask ourselves, what do we want our reader to think about us? What ideas do we want associated with our personal brand? I like to ask my clients often, when someone thinks Lee, they think X or Y, and you need to figure out what X or Y is. And if you're unsure, chances are that others are unsure about this too. So this really reinforces how important it is for us to take a more proactive approach to how we want to position ourselves. The opposite of it is, sort of letting it develop and percolate of its own accord. And in direct response to Lee's question, someone embarking on a career pivot should ensure that their headline encapsulates past experience, but also be future focused. So what this means is that for the most part, our work experience and our education sections in our LinkedIn profile and our resume, they're quite similar. And it's been set up in a particular way for the information to be presented, which is usually quite dry to the point. And there's very little room to maneuver in how you express yourself in these sections. So this is really where your headline and your about sections, which should be incorporated in both the LinkedIn profile and resume, this is where those sections really come in to do their job of positioning, clarifying, and just basically telling the reader what you want them to know about you. Steering them in the direction you want them to go. And why not? That's how you utilize these assets, let's call it that. That's how you utilize these assets well. People are often going to take you at face value. Hardly ever going to go through your entire career journey to try to figure out everything that you say. Sometimes they will, if they see a red flag, of course. But generally, if you say it, if you claim it, it will be seen as such. And this is exciting because this is an opportunity to own your narrative rather than keeping people guessing. You tell them what you want them to know, rather than having information dispersed and made available to some and not others, or allowing people to just sort of put it all together and connect the dots themselves, which may or may not do you justice, which may or may not show you up in the right light. You control the flow of information. You tell them what you'd like them to think about you, and you decide on how this appears and where it appears. This is so powerful. Now, future focused. It's so important to remember this. Our resumes are a reflection of our career journey, yes, but they should also capture our direction and our present interests. And that is for us to decide and articulate. So, Lee does not need to wait till he has a new full-time teaching position to call himself a teacher or educator. He has already begun down that road. While he must be careful not to exaggerate or misrepresent, he can certainly embrace the new path that he has chosen and begin letting aspects of that peek through in his resume and profile. So this is to be captured as part of his headline and his about sections in his resume and LinkedIn profile. And to further confirm impressions that are being made, he can clarify, he can expand, he can showcase his expertise and skills through his body of work. And this is short videos or articles that he decides to write and comments that he leaves on other people's posts where appropriate. Lee, he shouldn't delete his previous experience because that removes any understanding of his prior experience. And additionally, it leaves a huge gap that ultimately needs to be explained. So it should be avoided because there is no actual gap in his work experience. Rowena Morais here with episode 13 on career pivots. I'd love to hear any tips you might have, and if you have questions, leave a comment or join in the conversation on LinkedIn.